Remember that super veteran injured offensive lineman Clemson had, the Dabo downplay? Well, I got an update on him you might want to hear. It's Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We are free, available wherever you get podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. As always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you sincerely for that. Today's episode is probably not going to be a super sleek and sexy episode where people love to talk about quarterbacks and receivers and running backs, DBs, and all the flashy people. Today's episode is mostly going to be focused on large, fat people. I'm going to talk about the offensive line today. Now, and by the way, I think this is such a critically important matchup on both sides of the ball in this game. Again, not fun to talk about, but I do think, and I've said this prior, that when the game ends, Saturday night or Sunday morning, you can go look at a box score. And you can look at one line of the box score. You can look at LSU's rushing total, and that's going to tell you if they won the game. If LSU runs 23 times for 68 yards, they're going to lose. If LSU runs 35 times for 170 yards, I think LSU is going to win the game. I think that will be the telltale of how this game goes. But I'm not here to talk about LSU's offensive line just yet. I'll get there. I want to talk about Clemson's offensive line. And I'm not going to blow a gasket the way I did 2 weeks ago. If you're an everydayer, you'll remember this episode. But 2 weeks ago, Dabo Swinney was asked about super senior offensive lineman Walker Parks. Now, Walker Parks, if you're not familiar, has been at Clemson since presidents had long beards. He's played in 53 games with 42 starts. So he's a super senior, COVID year, had a redshirt year, all that sort of stuff. Very veteran guy. He's the starting right guard. And I'm not here to tell you that whether or not Walker Parks plays, doesn't plays, injured, limited, whatever, is going to be the fulcrum that swings the game. I do think it's significant because Clemson has a very experienced offensive line, and he is their most experienced offensive lineman. So I do think it's worth noting. So a couple of weeks ago, just about 2 weeks ago, Clemson practices, and there's a report out there that Walker Parks is on crutches and not practicing. Well, Dabo Swinney, after that practice, was asked about Walker Parks. You might remember this interaction.
Questions? Walker Parks, is he? Oh, he'd be all right. He'd be all right. He'd be all right. He'd be good to go. He didn't go today. We held him today, but he'd be all right. Okay.
You remember that, don't you? And I sat here, and if you missed it, go back and watch the episode. I'm not going to blow a gasket again, I promise. But I crushed that reporter. I have no idea who that is. I'm sure he's a wonderful person, but he's terrible at his job. And everyone else in that media scrumming around Dabo Swinney failed their audience, because here you have a super senior offensive lineman who's played in 53 games with 42 starts. He's rumored and reported to be on crutches. And someone asked Dabo Swinney, Parks, like so timid, Parks update? And Dabo said, it'd be good to go. Yep, nothing to worry about. It'd be good to go. We held him today, but he's all right. You heard it, right? Nobody asked a follow-up in the rest of that press conference. Nobody asked, Coach, is he on crutches? Coach, what's the injury? Coach, do you expect him to play against LSU? Coach, if he can't play, who's going to back him up? So many very obvious follow-up questions, none of which were asked. And by the way, I did this episode, and boy, the Clemson media had a field day with me. But Dabo told us it was fine, they said, because coaches never, ever, ever lie about injuries, do they? Coaches never give us any reason whatsoever to be skeptical about what they say as it relates to injuries and their team in general, do they? No, we should just take everything they say at face value. I've told you before. Covered Les Miles. LSU was playing Tennessee in 2011. There were reports about an injury to P.J. Lonergan. Les Miles insisted Lonergan was fine. Lonergan didn't even make the trip to Tennessee. It is a journalist who has the privilege of being in a press conference, of being granted that media access. It is their job to ask questions, to be skeptical and ask questions to serve their audience, not to cower around Dabo Swinney like this.
Walker Parks, is he? Oh, he'd be all right. He'd be all right. He'd be all right.
He'll be all right. He'll be all right. They got parrots, Dabo. All that to say, I'm not trying to redo the same episode. All that to say, so here we are 2 weeks later. We're 2 weeks later. But 72 hours before the game, when Dabo has his final media availability before the game. Okay, 2 weeks after that, he'll be all right. Dabo completely downplays it. He'll be all right. Be good to go. Held him today, but he's fine. No worries. 2 weeks later, Dabo Swinney asked about Walker Parks.
Hey, Dabo, it's Chapel. How much has Walker Parks been able to practice the last 2 days?
Pretty good bit. He's been he's been out here in pads the last couple of days, getting some reps in and getting a lot of the teamwork. Still working his way back to 100%, but he's in a good spot.
So 2 weeks later, he's not good to go. He'll be all right, good to go. 2 weeks later, and he's still working his way back to 100%. 2 weeks later, doing some work in pads. That soundbite was 72 hours from kickoff, and Dabo sitting saying, one more time.
Hey, Dabo, it's Chapel. How much has Walker Parks been able to practice the last 2 days?
Pretty good bit. He's been he's been out here in pads the last couple of days, getting some reps in and getting a lot of the teamwork. Still working his way back to 100%, but he's in a good spot.
Fine. He's in a good spot, working his way back to 100%, got some work in, done some reps. That is a far cry from he'll be all right, be good to go. No worries here. Nothing to see, nothing to worry about or ask about. Now listen, I don't know if Walker Parks is going to play. And if he does or doesn't, I'm not saying that's what's going to cause LSU or Clemson to win or lose this game. I do think it's significant. Clemson, as an offensive line, has 167 career games played and 126 starts among their projected starters: Lee, Sadler, Linthicum, Parks, and Miller. Parks is the most experienced with 53 games played and 42 starts as a super senior. I do think it's significant when you're talking about a guy that's played that much football in what is supposed to be, I believe, Clemson's strongest, most veteran group. But the point is, as I say it here, for everyone, because, and listen, I know most people watching this are LSU fans. And there are some people who are watching this who are Clemson fans who are watching this because it's game week and you want the LSU perspective. And welcome. I'm glad you're here. I respect that very much. Thank you for being here. But the point is, we will go our separate ways after this. And if you're a Clemson fan, you need to hold your media to a higher standard. Because to just passively accept and refuse to ask a follow-up to Dabo Swinney about your most veteran offensive lineman 2 weeks ago and just accept that he's all right, no biggie. And then when I have the audacity to question what Dabo Swinney would say, and then you all crush me, and 2 weeks later, Walker Parks is still working his way toward 100%. Listen, I think what's going to happen, I don't know. I'm not at Clemson. I'm not going to the game on Saturday. I don't cover Clemson. My guess is they're going to shoot that thing up and tape it like hell and tell that big dude who's played in 53 career games to get on your horse and go play, and I think he will. That's what I think is going to happen. But 2 weeks ago, Dabo told you it was no big deal. 2 weeks later, that dude still ain't practicing full. 72 hours before the game. Ask questions. It's a good lesson to learn. Now, I'm going to ask a bunch more questions. We're going to talk more about both offensive lines because whether Walker Parks plays or not, I think is big. And Dabo Swinney did address the rotation on the offensive line, and it's actually really parallels LSU's, which is odd as they make their way through this week. So we're going to dive into that as we continue. Locked on LSU, your team every day. Hey, Locked on LSU fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play. Do it right now. Start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code FOOTBALL and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You could make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, to PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code FOOTBALL for a limited time 25 cents per gallon bonus. That's promo code FOOTBALL. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. Today's show is also brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items for the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Their Trademaster perks, by the way, like priority shipping and dedicated support, make the whole process smoother. So join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. I'm going to jump back into the offensive line here in just a quick second, but we do have a request to you, our listeners. It's important. Locked On wants to hear from you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners to make your favorite podcasts even better. It's your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. So please go to lockedonpodcasts.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcasts.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. And thank you very much for helping us out. So we will wait and see what happens with Walker Parks. It's also worth noting that Dabo Swinney, when he was asked about that Clemson offensive line on Wednesday, his final media availability before the LSU game, he was asked about the battle at left guard. So Walker Parks is the starting right guard, but they do have a little bit of a battle here. 4 starters returning. They do have a little bit of a battle here on the left side. And Dabo's not going to announce a starter, but I want you to listen. This is only 16 seconds. I want you to listen to what Dabo says here about that offensive line competition.
I mean, look, we got 7 guys, and they're all starters, and whoever runs out there first, I could care less between that group. Honestly, I think they're all going to play, and whoever Matt runs out there first, I'll be good with it.
7 guys, they're all starters, they're all going to play. Whoever runs out there first, I'll be good with it. 7 starters, and they're all going to play. I play that because I sat here on this show earlier this week and played a clip from Brian Kelly about LSU's rotation. He was asked on Monday, Brian Kelly was, about some of the rotation on the defensive side and on the offensive line, where we've still yet to see a definitive set 22. And remember, Dabo said they got 7 guys, they're all starters, and they're all going to play. Remember Brian Kelly said this.
I don't know that you always need a static 22. You don't want everybody in a position where you're rotating every single player, but there will be a couple of positions where we'll have some rotation, and I think it will be good for us. I think it makes us better. And so, we look at, different battles, right? We're going to play a number of defensive ends and defensive tackles. It's because we'll be better because of it. I think the same thing would be true on the offensive line. You're going to see more than just 5 guys out there. You'll see, at least 6 or 7, could be as many as 8 offensive linemen playing for us.
So Dabo and Brian Kelly are effectively saying the exact same thing. Now, it is fair to mention that Clemson, I mentioned a bit ago, Clemson, their projected starters, have played in 167 games with 126 starts. For all intents and purposes, that's the same thing as the LSU team a year ago. That offensive line with Will Campbell and Emory Jones and Garrett Dellinger and Miles Frazier, those guys had played in a combined 170 career games. Okay, the guys at LSU just lost, played a combined 170 career games. So this group at Clemson is at 167. So you're effectively saying, look at the experience LSU had on the offensive line a year ago. Same thing at Clemson this year. And and they still have a rotation there at left guard that they're trying to figure out. LSU, same thing, trying to figure out their starting left guard, because Braylon Moore's the center. Your tackles are going to be Tyree Adams and Weston Davis, and the right guard is Josh Thompson, the transfer. They're trying to figure out left guard. And there's 3 guys at LSU with DJ Chester, Paul Mabenga, Cohen Eccles, who are all rotating for that spot. So like Dabo said, they got 7 guys. They're all starters. They're all going to play. Brian Kelly saying, we got 5 starters, but you're going to see 6, 7, maybe even 8 guys that are all going to play. And rotation is not necessarily a bad thing. My point has been, I kind of disagree with that because, and who am I? Brian Kelly's the winningest active coach in college football. Dabo's won 180 games and 2 national championships. Both dudes are really smart and great coaches and won a ton of games. They are 2 of the preeminent coaches in college football, quite honestly, in college football history, when you look at their resumes. They're both going to be college football Hall of Famers. I'm not sitting here trying to poo-poo these two very accomplished men. Please don't misunderstand me. I'm just looking logically and saying the old adage, if you had 5, you don't need 8. And now I'm saying you don't need depth. But a year ago, nobody was looking at LSU's offensive line going, well, you got 8. We were all looking at those first 5 and going, man, what a unit. Will Campbell wasn't rotating out of the game. Emory Jones, Garrett Dellinger, Miles Frazier, none of them were ever coming out of the game. They were experienced, veteran, talented dudes that were never coming out. Clemson has a hole at left guard that they're still trying to fill and clearly haven't exactly nailed that down. And Dabo said they're all going to play. Same thing with LSU. But the parallel here is both teams have 4 starters that are locked in. Now, a guy like Tristan Lee, for example, remember Tristan Lee, LSU recruited him heavily during the COVID year, wanted him desperately. He picked Clemson over LSU. Well, Tristan Lee was a 5-star offensive tackle, picked Clemson. He's now played in 32 games with 23 starts. LSU's got Tyree Adams at left tackle, who's a former top 150 player who is starting for the first time. Their left tackle is better than LSU's left tackle. Is LSU's left tackle capable of going and playing really well? Absolutely. Is their left tackle more experienced and going to be a higher draft pick as of now? Yes. But they're not going to go against each other, per se. Tristan Lee's going to have to deal with Gabe Relaford and Jack Pyburn and Patrick Payton and some really talented, experienced defensive ends at LSU as well. But I guess the point being, both teams have 4 starters on the offensive line that are locked in, and both teams are trying to find one spot where they have a rotation. And for both teams, it's left guard. The challenge, I would say, for Clemson potentially is if you're finding a rotation at left guard and Walker Parks is limited or unavailable, does that weaken the interior of the Clemson line, which could elevate LSU's defensive line? Just something to watch. It may be answered to the affirmative. Clemson may have so much depth, experience, and talent that they are going to have a fantastic game against LSU. It could play out that way, absolutely. But Clemson has a right guard that's got a bum wheel. They're not settled at left guard, and they got a receiver that just moved to running back. It might be a little bit of a challenge for Clemson to get going in the running game. This would be a great opportunity to see what the new look LSU defensive front can play like against an experienced line that does have a few leaky holes right now. Now, I had the chance to talk to former LSU great Todd McClure, who you might remember was consensus All-SEC. He was an All-American. He's in the Atlanta Falcons Ring of Honor, played 13 years in the NFL. And I asked Todd McClure specifically about this offensive line shuffle with LSU not having its set line just yet. And look, Brian Kelly and Dabo are super smart, but Todd McClure played 13 years in the NFL as in the Falcons Ring of Honor, and he and I kind of are aligned here.
Tough guy, because I could remember, in the NFL, you play with different guys and different combinations in the preseason, and even through injuries, it took 3 or 4 weeks before you started to gel. So, I heard you talking about it yesterday. I'm not as confident as this guy because, you got 5 new guys. You go into, I can remember going into the swamp, and you block Javon Curse in your sleep when you're watching film, but when you get out there in the swamp and that crowd's going, and then you see Javon Curse out there in a 3-point stance, it's a little different, So how do these guys each individually handle the big environment like Clemson, And I think you hear a lot of confidence about the guy in the middle, and that's where it all starts. The thing that makes me nervous is when they're talking about rotating 7 or 8 guys in this offensive line. Do you truly have a starting 5 if you're talking about rotating 7 or 8 guys?
That's not me saying it. That's a guy that played 13 NFL seasons, is in the Falcons Ring of Honor, started 198 games in his NFL career, was an All-American, saying it takes sometimes 3 weeks, and do you really have a starting 5 if you're rotating 8? That's a question you could ask both of these head coaches right now. The one certainty for LSU, however, is the man in the middle in Braylon Moore playing the position that Todd McClure played.
It all starts there with communication. Him and us have to be on the same page. When you're going into a loud, hostile environment, your silent count, what you're going on a lot is dictated off the center. And then if he's the calming piece, then he can calm the guys on both sides of him down, the left guard and the right guard. And when you have a guy, leader of a unit that's calm, and you see he operates under pressure, it makes everybody else relax, and then you go out there and play.
We're going to start getting answers pretty soon, but there's no real consensus right now on who the starters will be for either team, given some of the injuries, their player rotation, and also what it's going to look like on Saturday night. Now, one thing's for certain, LSU's got a much more talented roster than they did 12 months ago when they took on Southern Cal, and Brian Kelly acknowledged that. You'll hear that next on Locked on LSU, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. I love telling you about Game Time. They've been great partners of ours here on Locked on LSU. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands. There's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pulled up Game Time, just a couple of taps. It's amazing. You can see the deals. Talking about your favorite college football games as low as $25. If you're going to Clemson to watch LSU and Clemson and you need tickets, make sure you grab the Game Time app. It's faster, it's cheaper, it's less stressful than any other way that I've ever bought tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Our show today is also brought to you by our friends at Our Lady of the Lake, part of the Franciscan Missionaries of Our Lady Health System. Our Lady of the Lake is committed to the Baton Rouge community. Just this year, the Franciscan Missionaries of Our Lady Health System has approved more than $250 million in capital expenditures. They are investing in the future of our region's healthcare with projects that include a major ER renovation at the Baton Rouge Regional Medical Center, a new observation beds at the Livingston campus, a medical office building at the St. Elizabeth campus, a significant rejuvenation of our adult and adolescent mental health facilities, and so much more. These are the same experts and the same expert care trusted by LSU, which is ready when and where you need it. You can trust Our Lady of the Lake just like I do. Trusted by champions, trusted by you. It's Our Lady of the Lake. You can learn more at ololrmc.com/LSU. That's ololrmc.com/LSU. Our Lady of the Lake and LSU, together we roar. On Monday, I asked Brian Kelly the difference in year 4, how he feels going into the opener in year 4 versus the previous 3. Give a listen.
I think it's an evolution, right? Each year you're developing depth, you're developing a DNA within your team where you know much more about them in terms of what to expect. But I think at the end of the day, this is about depth and probably the most depth in the roster. Now, we still got to go out and play and perform at the highest level, but I would just say what's different is it's a mature group that has played a lot of football, and we're not going into a game where we can't handle the moment.
Mature group, played a lot of football, a lot of depth. Brian Kelly was asked a similar question on Wednesday on the SEC Coaches Teleconference. So remember, and I want to play just the very beginning again for you there. Remember the very beginning.
I think it's an evolution, right? Each year you're developing depth, you're developing a DNA within your team where you know much more about them in terms of what to expect. But I think at the end of the day, this is about depth and probably the most depth in the roster. Now,
depth and the most depth on the roster. On Wednesday, Brian Kelly was asked a similar question on the SEC Coaches Teleconference. And he took the answer he gave me on Monday and took it a big step further.
Well, in terms of the opener, we upgraded our roster. And I think that that's probably at the end of the day
the biggest thing. Everybody talks about iron sharpening iron. We didn't have iron all the time. We had iron versus butter. Butter doesn't like iron. And so, from that perspective, the competition in camp was so much different when you have the kind of depth that we have built here. And it's taken time, right? And we still have some work to do. I think that's probably the biggest difference. There's some nuances in terms of our schedule. We got into a routine, a game week schedule earlier than I had in the past. But the other things are pretty similar.
Iron sharpens iron. We had iron and butter?
Well, in terms of the opener, we upgraded our roster. And I think that's probably at the end of the day, the biggest thing. Everybody talks about iron sharpening iron. We didn't have iron all the time. We had iron versus butter. Butter doesn't like iron.
Butter doesn't like iron. Let me give you some context. In the 24/7 team composite a year ago, LSU was 8th with a 906 rating. This year, LSU is 6th with a 920 rating. That might seem small, but that is a significant rating jump in the team talent composite. And by the way, some of that is skewed because you can look at guys like Deshaun Womack and Sage Ryan, who are former 5-stars who weren't great players for you a year ago. When those guys exit and you bring in Patrick Payton and AJ Halsey, or Jack Pyburn and AJ Halsey, those are dramatic upgrades at those two positions with lower star guys. Yeah, Brian Kelly, for the first time in his career, has a loaded gun 1-85. It is his most talented roster, and he has an amazing opportunity to go prove it Saturday night at Clemson. We will give you a preview and prediction before we get to the game on Saturday right here on Locked On LSU. Hey, thanks so much for making this your first listen. Now, check out another big moment for Locked On. It's Locked On Fire TV college football kickoff. You can catch college football kickoff every Thursday throughout the season only on Fire TV. Hey, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. Let a friend know they love the Tigers. We got you every single day. It's Locked On LSU, your team every day.